Welcome to Swizzy Floristry. This video will demonstrate a simple symmetric arrangement using wildflowers. I've filled the container with floral foam, and note that the foam is 5 centimetres above the edge of the container to allow for side placements. I'm going to select a piece of the woolly bush that's nice and straight to give the first vertical line. I'm going to place the stem 3/4 back into the oasis, making sure that it's nice and firmly placed into the foam. I'm then going to support the first placement with 2 placements each side of the line, roughly the same height. We want to form a scalene triangle. Then, utilising the foam at the sides, I'm going to place some more of the line material, the woolly bush, out each side to start to form a triangular shape. I'm then going to support the placements in between each with some more of the line material to start to build up a shape to follow. I'm going to extend the line with the woolly bush out the front of the container as well, because we want to have some depth within the skeleton greenery of the arrangement. So we're placing the perimeter placements to form a triangular shape, and we're also forming a half triangle at the side of the arrangement. I'm now going to support the first primary placements of the woolly bush with some of the G-bung. Again, I'm going to get a straight vertical piece and support it by putting it in front of the first placement of the woolly bush. I'm then going to continue to do that on each side of the first placements, because this arrangement is to be symmetrical, which means that if we put something on the left of the arrangement, we need to mirror it with a placement on the right of the arrangement to keep the arrangement balanced. So I'm going to place the greenery in between the other placements of the woolly bush to then make a skeleton of greenery that I can follow with the line flowers. We don't want to cover all of the floral foam at the moment. We're just creating an outline of greenery that we can then place the flowers into. The first flower placement that I'm going to put in are the leucadendrons, because these are our line flower. So we need to choose a nice straight stem of the leucadendron and put it directly in front of our greenery base to get our height. We then want to support this first placement with a placement each side of the axis, again with the leucadendron flowers. So we're going to place all our leucadendron flowers into the arrangement at this time, making sure that we push them deep down into the floral foam and that the placements are equal on each side as we're placing them in the arrangement, and we're following the pattern to make our triangle, our scalene triangle, through the arrangement. I'm going to continue grading down the leucadendron and cutting them a little bit shorter as I go, and in the centre section of the arrangement I'm going to place the leucadendron in a zigzag pattern from the axis point. I'm also going to bring the leucadendron out slightly so that we get some depth in the arrangement to follow the first placements of the greenery. You should have 10 stems of leucadendrons within your market bunch, and you'll be able to put the 10 placements following the pattern that I've done with the side placements, and then a placement of zigzagging through the front of the arrangement to give it both depth and different line. Now that I've placed the main line flower, the leucadendron, in our simple symmetric arrangement, I'm going to support these placements with some transitional material, which will be our strelinger. So again, with the strelinger, we want to look for some pieces that are nice and straight in their formation and aren't too clustered along the stem. I'm going to place these material slightly at the back of the arrangement to give some depth to the bowl and to carry the colour and line back into the shape. I'm going to place these florets of the strelinger in behind the leucadendron placements to give some background to the main line flower that we use. This is what we always do with our transitional material to help to bring the arrangement, the gaps within the arrangement together to ensure that it's a symmetric shape. So I'm going to start to fill in between the gaps in the leucadendrons. With some of our material, with the strelinger, we're able to cut the stems into several pieces and get more than one placement out of the stem by cutting it down into the appropriate length, because the sides of this triangle are not as wide as the height. That's why we call it a scalene triangle, where the height is roughly 2/3 and the width is 1/3 in proportion. This shape arrangement is very good for a small confined space such as a hospital, or to go into a unit or a townhouse for a customer delivery. I'm just now placing some of the strelinger pieces into the front of the arrangement, again just to bring the colour and the depth of material through within the main line flower of the leucadendrons. What I'm going to do now is place the quercifolium, the diandra, within the arrangement. I have 5 stems of this, so I'm going to follow the same pattern that I did with the leucadendrons, and I'm going to place my quercifolia in the other zigzag within the spaces within the leucadendrons. So I'll put a couple of the diandra in. We're also going to step these flowers down. So I'm placing them in between the zigzag of the leucadendrons, and this will give us balance within our arrangement. What we need to do is either place each side of the middle axis of the arrangement, or if we have stems such as these, we need to place them each side of the axis in a pattern to ensure that we have a balance of materials and we achieve our symmetry. So placing the quercifolia down the centre, but each side in a gradient zigzag in the arrangement. What I'm going to do now is place some of the G-bung into the floral foam to cover the floral foam so that the foam won't dry out, and also we do this to cover our mechanics. Our floral foam is the mechanics of the arrangement, and we don't want to be able to see that at the end when we've finished our design. What an important point here is to do this in the steps that are shown and not to put all the greenery in at the beginning of the arrangement. Otherwise you don't have clear placements or clear areas that you can put your materials in, especially when they're the wildflower materials which have quite large wooden stems. So we do this greenery placement in a sequence where we put the outlining greenery in first, and then we fill in with smaller pieces once we've put the line material into the arrangement. What I'm doing as well now is covering some of the floral foam at the back of the arrangement, but what we've also left is a space for the customer to add water during the life of this arrangement, which will be around 10 to 14 days these flowers will last. So we've left a reservoir at the back of the arrangement for the customer to add water. So I'm just utilising some of the small pieces of the woolly bush now, cutting off one stem at a time to fill in the back area of the arrangement. This also strengthens the line of the triangle that we've first created, just to fill in and give a bit of depth to the arrangement. I'm now going to add the Vanda orchids. Although these are not a wildflower, they have a similar vase life to the other flowers. So we add these exotic tropicals to the arrangement to add some colour, but to also make sure that they're a flower that lasts the same amount of time as the rest of the material. What I'm going to do with the orchids as well is place them in a zigzag pattern throughout the arrangement. And with your orchid, you need to consider that it has beautiful florets all the way up the stem, and I don't want to push this too deep within the arrangement and cover all the florets. So I'm placing it into the foam, but I'm ensuring that the colour of the flowers are still shown in the end of the arrangement and their placement. So what I'm doing is bringing a little bit of colour to the sides and the back of the arrangement by placing some of the Vanda orchids down into the base or the back of the arrangement, and continuing to make sure that the placements also come down over the front of the vase or container, so we start to create one whole image of flowers and not a container that just has flowers coming out of it. We want to marry the two elements of the design together, both the container and the materials that are placed into it. I'm just using smaller pieces of the Strelinger now, again to make these side placements, and that's why we placed our oasis up a little bit higher, our floral foam, in the beginning of the demonstration, and this now allows me to angle the stems and place them confidently in the side of the arrangement without any fear of the stems locking together or not being able to access the floral foam. So I'm just going around now and putting some of the Strelinger around the base of the arrangement, making a little skirt of colour down around the edge, so it's really bringing the line down over the ceramic container that we've put this particular simple symmetric arrangement into. I'm just going to put a final couple of placements of the Strelinger back into the back of the arrangement, just to bring a little bit of colour down at the base, and it helps to take the eye right through from the very front of the arrangement right back to this back level of the simple symmetric. As a last design element, I'm going to put some loops of the Xanthorrhoea grass into the arrangement. So the way that I do this is insert the grass, the end of the grass, into the floral foam, take the very fine tip off the end, and then place the other cut end into the oasis. So because this is a symmetric arrangement, what we want to do is make sure if we put a loop on the left of the arrangement, We do a mirror image of a loop on the right of the arrangement so that there is balance kept and we don't lose the symmetry of what we've done. I'll just turn this around for you to see the beginning of the loops. So we have one each side of the arrangement, and then I'm going to place some loops in a zigzag fashion down the front of the arrangement, the same form that we did the leucadendrons and the quercifolium in. This just gives a little bit of negative space to the arrangement and adds a different element to be seen, and also it adds a little bit of extra perceived value to the design that we're doing. We're using a little bit of negative space within the loops of the spear grass, the Xanthorrhoea grass, to capture some of the space in the loops and give some extra retail value to the design that we're putting together. Sometimes we don't need a lot of these particular loops to change an arrangement and to give it a little bit more of a flair to the finished design. So we're just going to put a few loops through the arrangement, balanced each side, so it still remains its symmetry. We have our main placements and we've formed our scalene triangle, which is approximately 2/3 high and 1/3 wide. This is our simple symmetric arrangement using wildflowers.